This video is about setting the textures for a level of the original System Shock. I will describe the selection process and how the textures are applied. For this, I'm using the tools from the deck package of InkyBlackness in version 0.9.1. Future releases might have a different interface, yet the concept remains the same. The game has over 250 textures, yet a level can only use up to 54. These 54 are the level textures which are selected in the level control mode. From this list, the first 32 are for walls, ceilings and floors. The last 22 are only for walls. When selecting textures meant for walls only, I recommend to fill the list from the end. To select the texture for the level, first select the slot in the level textures list that you want to change. Then select the texture from the full list, or use the slider below for quicker access. By changing the texture, the map was updated immediately. This example shows that tiles reference the slots from the level textures list, not the textures directly. Be sure about your selection of textures, as it affects the whole level. Each tile in a level has one texture for the floor, one for the ceiling, and one for its four walls. The editor allows to set which of the three textures shall be displayed in the map. By default, it shows the floor textures. Ceiling and floor textures can be rotated in increments of 90 degrees. This field here shows all four options. The next property is the wall texture offset. By default, wall textures are vertically aligned to full tile heights. In case the floor or the upper slope edge of a tile does not match a full tile height, the texture of the wall may look misaligned. This offset allows to align the texture vertically in height units. The example here has two identical slopes, with one wall aligned to the upper edge. I said before that the tile uses its wall texture for all of its four walls by default. This can be changed by having tiles use adjacent wall textures. In this case, the walls will take the texture that is set at the neighboring tiles. The example tile here will have different textures for its walls north and east. The wall texture pattern is the last property for texturing. By default, wall textures will be rendered normally. A tile can also flip all of its wall textures horizontally. The two alternating patterns are useful for non-repeating textures. Alternating patterns ensure that each time a wall texture is put next to itself, every other texture is flipped horizontally. This includes two adjacent walls of the same tile. The three example tiles here use this alternating pattern for the biological infestation. Finally, level textures can also be animated. This requires textures to be assigned to groups, and these groups need to be configured in the level control. Animation group assignments are a property of the textures themselves. The game supports 3 animation groups. To use an animated texture in the level, all of its frames must be in the level textures list, and the group needs to be configured. In this example, the animated power converter, which is animation group 2, is configured to loop back and forth with a frame time of 100 milliseconds. The first frame of the animated texture needs then to be set as the texture in a tile. Let's see how this looks. To summarize, levels use up to 54 textures from the game, of which the last 22 can only be used for walls. Each tile has 3 textures assigned, one for the floor, one for the ceiling, and one for the walls. Extra properties in a tile allow for a variety in the patterns. Always keep a backup of your files, and don't forget to salt the fries.